You are listening to She Kings with Erica and Allie. This is a podcast for peasants who don't want to live shitty lives. Every week we share insights on how to stop living out of habit and start living out of inspiration. So let's do this. I should say that I am recording live from Denver, Colorado. Since I made such a big deal that I was covered up. But now I'm back to my reality.
I just think the most important thing is that you let people know that we're recording. Otherwise, how would they know?
They won't.
Allie, they wouldn't. So we say it, we make it simple. That's what we're doing. That's what we do here. We make things simple.
So simple.
Yeah, mostly for ourselves, but also for everybody else.
Man, I am excited to be home. I'm still trying to play catch up on my sleep. And it's just been interesting because it's an 11-hour time difference. And then traveling home, we left on Friday morning and got home Friday evening, but we traveled back in time. So it was way more hours than it appeared to be. So anywho, long story short, my body's just like, no. I've been falling asleep just like at random times. I keep myself awake, just like, don't do it. Because then nighttime comes and my eyes seriously just pop open at 1 a.m. And I'm just like, oh, it's time to get up. Yeah. And then, so I'm just like, oh, so I'm hoping tonight I will get like a full night's rest. Man. It'll be good. Because it'll be, not quite yet, but almost a week that I've been home. But man, it's hard.
It's hard. Well, listen, I'll just tell you, our lives are very similar. Having this 1-year-old in my life. Yes. When her father was gone, I was seriously just sitting on a couch, 7:30. She goes to bed at 6:30, just like nodding off. I'm like, oh my God. It's 6:45 in the evening and I am done.
See, that's the time that I go to bed. And
that's because you have to, because you wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I know, because I'm looking at my time now. Okay, it's 2:35. I have about 5 more hours of eyes open, and then I'm done. I am calling it in. And then for some reason, which I love, but when we got home Saturday morning at like midnight, and then so Saturday night, we have the grandbabies over. That's their time, and they haven't seen us in a month. So we had all 4 over for dinner, sleepover, the usual. And then Nasai, the 1-year-old, has been sleeping through the night, but not that night. He woke up at 1 o'clock, and he was just talking. And 1 to 5, I had to take him in the living room so he wouldn't wake the other babies up because he was like singing and like screaming really high, like, oh. And it was super cute, but the other kids were starting to stir. So I had to take him in the living room. So we were up until 5. And then he went back to bed. I just stayed up. So I'm just like, I'm not even trying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Listen, I just say kudos to single moms. Kudos to people who travel for work a ton.
Yes. Kudos to whoever doesn't get the amount of sleep that their body truly needs. I can't say it's 8 hours anymore because sometimes I rock the world on like 4 hours. So I'm just like, yes. Sometimes it's 10 hours. Like my body just picks and chooses.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
Mine doesn't. Mine's like, sleep. We need together 8 to 10 hours in this 24-hour period. However we're going to do it. It's happening. So I wish I had that 4-hour stamina. It's not for me. But when we talked about this before, all of the women in my family, like they just get to a certain age and they are just like 4 a.m. in the morning, they're starting the day. They're just up. And I'm like,
I love it. And it's springtime here. So the birds start to chirp at like 4:30. And it's like, that's the best thing ever. Cause I don't feel alone.
Yeah.
Nature's up and I'm up. That means I'm special. I'm bonding with nature. Everybody else is asleep. Like, yeah.
Wait, you took specialness from that?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I agree.
Nobody else can hear like the first bird chirps because they're passed out. They're asleep. And I'm just like,
you are special. And that is a special experience. All right. So today we are talking about relationships, and there's so many ways to go with relationships. And rather than committing to doing an X-part series, let's just talk about a bit of it today and see if we get questions or if we want to talk about another bit of it next time. So relationships, what say you?
So when most people, or me, used to hear the word relationship, I always think of like people. My relationship with, first it was a romantic relationship, then relationships with family, people in general, but literally relationship is anything around you. Relationship with money, food, traffic, your car, your clothes, like absolutely everything. So when I say a relation, when I hear relationships or speak on relationships, it's literally everything.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, metaphysically, it has to be everything, right?
Yeah.
Humans are just energy, just like everything else we see, just energy. And so one of the ones that I like to consider a lot when I am frustrated, or I don't even know if that's fair, but I just remember I was very much a watcher of Sex and the City. And Carrie Bradshaw would always start off like talking about whatever about Sex and the City. And she would be reading her article that she posted in the paper that week. And she did one on her relationship with New York. And so ever since then, I always like, that was it's always one of the big relationships in my life. Like, what is my relationship with the place that I live?
Yeah. And what makes a relationship is your story about it. Mm-hmm. So if you think of anything that you look at and you have a story, you will have a story, then you have a relationship with it, whatever it is.
That's beautiful. And the most important thing, and this is what we want to talk to you guys about this week, is whatever that story is, it's all about you.
Yep.
Relationships are simply a reflection of your internal environment. And I want to put a fine point on that. When I'm working with a client and we're talking about a human who is bothering them in some way, or a human who they're observing and they say, oh, that person is so sad, or that person is so this, that, so that, I say to them, consider that if I were looking at it, I might say they're so contemplative. If someone else were looking at it, they might say that person's so angry. Every single one of us is going to look, the story we create is 100% about us and it's not objective. A person is not objectively anything. Wow. Somebody's asshole is somebody else's spirit animal. Like, that person's hilarious. So whatever story you make up, this is where the work comes in, right? And I can already give a homework. So so this one's over, guys.
What's getting me through those hours during the day that I really want to be sleeping, but I have to stay up, is watching Arrested Development.
I love Arrested Development. Oh my God. The never nude guy.
Oh my God. I can't even, it's too funny. But the relationship is, so this, what has made me think of it, listening to you talk, was when there was a stand of people and they're watching the wall being built, like they're promoting this wall being built. So this is the episodes.
Okay.
And, so there's all these different people in the stands watching this, and this lady is on stage and she's insecure. And so she throws a sheet over her, basically her whole head. And so one lady goes, oh, she's mocking Muslims. And another person says, she's disrespecting women. And another person says, a little kid goes, oh, she's a ghost. And it's just, it's like, and then somebody, this manicured person was just like, I bet she has bad skin. Right? So it's like everybody has their own version, but it's coming from them. It's them, right? Absolutely. And so when they see this happening in front of them and they say, oh, this is why she's doing it, has nothing to do with why she put a sheet over her head. Zero. It's like their insecurities, their whatever that's coming through. So yeah.
So that is I think that's a good one. And easy way to visually see it, but it's the same thing in any sort of offhand comment that someone might make to you.
Yeah.
So somebody might say, oh, Allie, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And you're thinking to yourself, I've already done X, Y, and Z, right? And so from there, it's totally up to you what you want to do with that. Do you want to go back and sulk like so and so didn't even notice that I already did X, Y, and Z? Or do you want to, you know, just remedy the situation right there and say, okay, but most people, like something happens, particularly in work situations, something happens, something is said, and then rather than just addressing it, they go back and they make up a whole story around it. And I'm trying to think of a good example. Do you have one where in the end, it turns out to be something completely different than what what you
Well,
thought it was when you walked away with your story?
yeah. I'm just thinking of the conversation that I had today with the business owner.
Yeah. Yes.
The I was going to buy a building that my yoga studio is in, and I sent an email basically saying, "Here's the contract. Please let me know what you think." And then I get an email back that says, "Thanks for your interest in buying the building. I'm not selling it." And that was it. And this is the first time today that I talked to him. And so we sat down, and he's telling me his story, right? I thought that you were saying the contract was you're taking over. He's like, "I'm the realtor and you're going to take over." And he's like, "I didn't want to have that. So I just ended our relationship." Like, and he did, like, right then and there. And we've been
Absolutely.
working on this for 3 years, and he just ended it in like one email. And then I said, "You didn't even read it. It was a contract saying this is agreed upon a price. This is between you and me. If this looks good, let's move forward." And then you do the realtor contract.
Right.
And he just sat there and he goes, "Really?" And I go, "Yes. Like, why wouldn't you talk to me?" So he had this whole story in his head. But then my story was he sold it to somebody. He
Yep.
sold it from underneath me. And I stewed on that since January. Like,
Yep.
I can't believe it. And then it's so funny because now I was kind of easing into, yeah, someone else has a building. And that wasn't even the case at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we actually sat across from each other and we were both laughing because of our interpretations of what happened. And they were
That is so
wasn't what
perfect.
it was. Yeah.
That is
So it
so
was
perfect.
my insecurity of, see, he took it away from me. I knew it. And it was his defensiveness to be like, "No, this is who I am. I'm the realtor. I'm the business owner. I own the building. I should be taking
In
this
this position.
approach." Yes.
But
So we
then
had a good laugh.
what I love about that is that when you think about what happened separately, so situation happened, email sent, email half read. He went, do you know how many people he probably told about the story of you trying to, who does she think she is? I'm the realtor. You know, these are the things that come with submitting the contract. And I'm a contract submitter because X, Y, and Z. And you know what? I don't have time for people who don't know how things work around here. And he probably had that conversation with 1 billion people. And then you think about how that then colors how he interacts with you. Now he's a little bit standoffish with you because
Yeah.
who the fuck do you think you are?
Yep.
And then you think about how many people you turned around and said, this fucker told me for X period of time that he would never sell the building from under me. And we're
Yeah.
going to have this agreement and everything's going to be good. And like, look
Yeah.
what he did. Whole freak. And so you guys went and spun these huge, insane webs
Yeah.
based on a story, but it was exactly what both of you needed it to be.
Yep.
It was
Absolutely.
exactly what you both needed it to be. It's exactly the experience that you guys needed to have.
We obviously needed a break from each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's funny that you said that because he goes, "And then when I got your email about the contract, I stepped back and I said, who does she think she is?"
Hell yeah.
I'm like, "What?
Hell yeah.
Buy your building. How to make things happen. Let's do
Right. I'm the girl who has all this money to put in your hand.
this."
Um, I think about that also. I always say this when I think about my relationship with the island where I lived. When I first moved here, I just remember looking out and deciding that everything was already set. all of the people were so happy because obviously they live on this beautiful island and they're all best friends. And the way I saw it, everybody was always out on a yacht popping bottles and like, just doing all this, crazy over the top stuff. And there was no place for me.
Mm.
There was no place for me because I had made this decision in the end, right? That the picture that I made up in my mind,
Yeah.
it wasn't true. And so um, the interesting thing about these relationships is that once you make up the story, then you live by it and you start
Yeah.
to think, wait a minute, how does this affect how I now show up on the island? I just assume that everybody's already friends. And so when I go out, I just kind of stick with my husband and like the few people that I know because they're all, you know, deeply in love with each other and they're having the best time ever and they have no space for me. And I don't really try to get people's numbers and form any contacts, and just the story you make up about whatever relationship that you have puts you into a box, puts you into a prison, and you act according to the prison that you have created. And so your life is so limited because you've decided. And then what happens is you don't get to actually experience the relationship. Like truly, I could have had a completely different relationship with this island.
Yeah.
You and your your business guy, you guys could have had a completely different, like open, easy, flowing relationship
Mm-hmm.
if you hadn't gone into the story about who
Right.
the other person
Yeah. And it's
is.
so crazy because he's older, he's in his 70s, and him and I hit it off like right at the bat. And he'd always stop by, we would talk. We had a great relationship. And so just for almost 3 months, we didn't speak. And right
Yeah.
when I walked into his office today, he looks at me, he goes, "You deserted me." And I'm
Oh,
what? And we picked up exactly where we left off.
yeah.
And so it was just that easy, giving each other shit, and making everything um, how it's. I don't know how it was.
How it was, but not even how it can be.
Yeah,
What's in the possibility of it as opposed to the limitation, the mental
yeah,
limitation
yeah.
that your story puts on it. One more thing about that. I was actually working with a beautiful client, and when you put a story on it, she was looking at how she had put a story on a friend of hers. And because she attached a story to this person, she couldn't really see her and what she needed in that moment and how she was really feeling because she
Wow.
had the jail is like it's a barrier even. Um, and so it was just beautiful. And I think this is what homework should be for everyone. It's beautiful to remove the story and start to look at people for who they really are. And
Yeah,
then a new relationship, one that's more honest and more true, is able to form.
yeah, more compassionate too. Because
Yes.
I think if we do create those stories, like bottom line, we're not compassionate towards ourselves. Therefore, we're not compassionate to people who are going through certain things.
Yes.
And then it and literally when we're talking, however long we're going to talk about relationships, it is going to come down to bolstering the relationship that you have with yourself, how you see yourself, how you talk to yourself, what you do for yourself, how do you limit yourself, all those things. And because everything outside of you is going to reflect that.
Yes.
And the biggest one too is like a relationship with food, like
Yeah.
the story around food. This isn't good for me. This isn't. And um, it will show up exactly that. It'll
Exactly
absolutely
that.
show up.
Exactly that.
Yeah, like this is going to put on 10. This is going to put on a pound if I eat these calories, and it like smiles and it says,
Okay.
I'm about to put on 5 pounds."
You're welcome.
Yeah, don't
I
limit
see
me
what
to
you're
a
aiming
pound.
for.
I've got 5, and it's
I love
a
that.
hard candy.
And I love that you said that when you are in these story based relationships that you're not compassionate to yourself. And it's again clear to see that when you're in a story-based relationship, you're putting yourself in jail.
Yeah.
You're limiting yourself. And so you think about the man that you spoke to today with this business relationship. You guys are like BFF. You guys are having such a great time. And because he made a decision based on that email, he put himself in the jail. And that's not compassionate because he really enjoyed talking with you. And you guys were fast friends. And again, today, you guys are laughing and having a good time and smiling. And, when you see someone else based on your story, and you inevitably have to act based on the story you create, you're really, really hurting yourself. And that's why it's always reflections, really always about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So
so,
homework. Go ahead.
well, just so how to change your relationship with any of your relationships, like how to change them. Because
Yes.
it's one thing to say, okay, this is relationships. You have relationships with everything around you. So how do we start changing it? Like being more mindful of the relationships and the roles that we play in them. I have to share that.
Uh-huh.
I have this Facebook. We're friends on Facebook, and I've known her for several years. And it's just like her posts are so aggressive with other people. Like, I am so sick of shitty people in my life. And then I am done. And then you won't hear anything. And then she'll be in a relationship, right? So-and-so is dating so-and-so. And then, a few months will go by and she's like, I'm so sick of this. Another man who doesn't know how to treat me right, like basically men bashing, and then it goes on. And I'm just like, oh, she has all of these just sad relationships.
Yep.
But I mean, there's no way that I would go on her page and just be like, who's the common denominator?
hey, let's have
hey, listen.
Take a minute. Hear me out.
But it's like, so if you are noticing that your relationships with people are toxic, they're draining, they're all of these things.
Yeah, I think that should be our next one. We should talk about patterns in relationships and how you end up just recreating it over and over again with different people. And they're not that person objectively. It's fucking you. It's you. I'm sorry.
And I think I said this on our last recording was we don't see the world how it is, but we see it how we see ourselves.
We see it how we are.
Yes. And so that's the same thing. We don't see people how they really are. We see them how we are and how we are conditioned to see them.
Yes.
Right? And so, I mean, you can look at anything. We don't see money for what it truly is. We see money how we are and how we are conditioned to see money.
Yes.
Like you can use that with absolutely everything.
Absolutely.
So, and if the way that you see it doesn't make you feel good, that is your body's way of saying you're looking at it wrong.
Praise the Lord.
You're not seeing it how it really is.
So I think we should definitely play with that next week because again, it's how we break the pattern. So in answer to your question, how do we start to become more mindful around this reflection in relationships? I love to give the homework of take any relationship, whether it's your relationship with food or with a city or with another human being, and get super fucking petty, get really, really petty and start just make a list of every single fucking thing that the city could do better. Every single thing that the food could do better, every single thing that the person could do better. Just like, you need to get your shit together. Okay. First of all, you need to be, more mindful, more kind, and, whatever it is for
fucking
food.
potholes.
Yeah, exactly. Clean up your stuff. Like whatever it is, just get super critical, make the longest list you possibly can. And there are two ways to go with this. One, I should only give one way because it makes it easier. Allie will choose which way you guys should go with it. One way, Allie, is that they could look at the list and they could see the city, the person, the food, the whatever, without that thought. look into the eyes of that person without that thought. You need to get your shit together. Just see who they really are. Most people are like, oh my God, this person is struggling. Oh my gosh, this person is really just trying to love me and show me affection. Oh my goodness, this person is completely focused on something else. And I just made up a story about them. So you can either do that, just look at the city for what it is.
Yeah.
Look at the food for what it is. Or you can, let's just leave it with that.
Okay.
Let's just leave it with that.
Yeah. And I like to, so it brings me up, makes me feel good when I'm in those situations. I always try to look for the divine in everything.
Yeah.
And so, like, how would Goddess see this person?
Yeah.
How would Goddess look at this food? Well, the thing that we're eating. Just kidding. These toffee candies that I'm about to dive into in a minute. But how would Goddess see that, right? Because it will always come back to compassion.
Yep. It always, Goddess doesn't see the story.
Yep. Yeah.
Goddess is just present with people and things. And, you know, you realize that when you make a story about a city, a person, whatever, as soon as you get back into contact, you go right back into, you go into that story. You go into that story. And so the who you're actually interacting with is not even the person who's in front of you. You're interacting with your own story and finding proof that the story you believe is still true. So it's all a big lie until you take the story away, until you go.
I do have to tell you. So when we talked yesterday and my son was over, so my son's going to India for 3 months to study yoga and to hang out and stuff. So in my head, he's at the airport. He totally gets in the wrong car. He's in a different part of the country. They sell him because he's super pretty. So, like, seriously, and I was like, and so I'm like, I got to clear up my schedule, and I got to fly there with him to make sure he gets from point A to point B, and that's our relationship. That's my relationship with him, where I'm just like, let me hold your hand with everything. He lives a couple blocks away, and it's like, can I walk you home? Like, are you gonna be okay? And he just,
he's a massive man. Okay.
And he's like,
a massive adult.
So when he was over, when we were talking to you, we went over the flight and the time the flight was going to land, and then it will be 6 in the evening, 6 in the evening. It will take 7 hours to drive to Rishikesh, so he'll be there at this. I mean, and it was so, like, I saw him differently. Like, he could totally do this, because just walking through and seeing him like engage with the process, I'm just like, he's totally capable.
Yeah. It's me. It was all me.
Right. Where I'm just like, I'm gonna have to go buy my son from, like, I don't know.
Or you're gonna have to call Liam Neeson and say, I've got a special set of skills, or whatever it is he said.
It's gonna be taken.
Oh gosh, poor sweet thing.
I know, man. My poor kids. I'm just like, they even tell me, like, you're overbearing. I'm just like,
leave me alone.
Not possible.
In the meantime, how can I clear my schedule off so I can fly you to India? You're welcome.
Exactly. So
oh gosh.
But and then once you notice how your story can change once you let go of all that stuff, then see how your relationship towards that person changes.
Yes.
So just this whole process with Christian going to India is totally changing my relationship with him. But it's me being more confident in letting go.
And it is you deciding to see him without the story you made up.
Yeah. He's not a baby. He's gonna be fine.
Absolutely. And so we would love to hear any shifts that you guys are having in relationships once you go through this process. And I'll tell you, we hear a lot from people who are doing the homework and getting awesome results. Do the homework. And the second option homework that I was going to give, it really applies for what we'll probably talk about next week, which is
Okay.
pattern. And so you'll get the homework. Don't let your mind be bothered.
Don't create a story about the homework.
Exactly. Exactly. Do it. Let us know how it goes. And that's it.
And we would appreciate you guys if you like us, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, share our stuff on Facebook. We really want to start building up our following, because we're going to start offering some exciting stuff, a new lifestyle website and products and all kinds of stuff. So do share us, do like us, and we would appreciate it so much.
We really would.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful humans, until next time.
Peace. She Kings. Yeah. Come on, Erica. Close us out with your little whisper.